All right, so this Knife Thoughts video is going to be on these knives, or really rather the manufacturer that makes these knives, which is Cooper Cutlery. So what is Cooper Cutlery? Well, Cooper Cutlery is Gilbert Cooper and his sons, and Gilbert Cooper purchased the machinery and some of the brands from Queen Cutlery when they went out of business in 2018. So there's been kind of talk in the traditional knife world since then about who was, going to end up owning the brands that Queen owned, and also the machinery, right? It was a full factory. Now, one thing, and we'll get into this a little bit more later, one thing is that the machinery was very old, but there's been a lot of talk about who would do that. And then over the last couple years, it kind of came to light that Gilbert Cooper had purchased at least some of the brands, and more importantly, the machinery, and was going to be making, Queen branded knives, traditional American knives in Ohio. So I was really excited. I wanted to learn more because I'd love for there to be, another competitor to Great Eastern Cutlery. Great Eastern Cutlery does great things. I love their knives. I really like the business itself and the people there, but I think it's a good thing for the market for collectors if there's competition. The other thing is I just was excited to see Queen knives continue. I think that it's an American company, has a lot of heritage to it, and so I was happy to see that was going to continue. Now, I tried to get in contact with Gilbert Cooper and just never basically could get in contact. I wanted to do maybe an interview or an article at least. And then finally, I did get in contact with Seth Cooper. Now, this was after I believe I had gotten at least the first one of these. But Seth Cooper is Gilbert Cooper's son, and he kind of let me know what was going on with the brand, the manufacturing. This was after these Weed & Co. knives had come out, like I said. And then he ended up sending some of these knives for evaluation, basically. And to be completely honest with you, I've had these knives for a while, and I've just been putting off making a video. And if you watch my videos, you know that I tell the truth. If I don't like a knife, I'm going to tell you that it's not good, that I don't like it, whatever. If I do like a knife, I'll tell you. And the truth is that while I, always will be truthful, I just don't like being negative. And particularly, I don't like being negative if it's, going to hurt someone who's trying, right? So in my normal work, my brother always puts, I work with my brother, he always puts a quote by Theodore Roosevelt on the wall, and it's the man in the arena, if you've ever heard that quote. So it's not the critic who counts, it's the man who actually does the deeds, basically. And so I hate to criticize someone who is doing it, right? It is, they are doing it. They are trying and succeeding in a way to make American-made traditional slip joints. So I hate to criticize someone because I don't want to be the critic, right? That's not what I do Knife Thoughts for. I do it because I love knives, and particularly traditional knives, and I just like to share that joy and enthusiasm with other people who share it, right? So I've been putting off this video for a while, but I decided that I owed it, to the Coopers, to Seth and Gilbert and the company, because they did send these knives, some of them, and also to, viewers, because I've had people ask about these knives. I've done some unboxings, I think, on a couple of these and things like that. So I decided to finally do it, and I'm kind of doing this somewhat off of the cuff because I have thought about these knives a lot over the last, maybe 2 years that I've had some of them. So first of all, what are these knives? Well, there's a couple different brands represented here that Cooper Cutlery owns, and that's a normal thing, right? In the history of American traditional knives and traditional knives in general, there would be brands that were owned by one manufacturer. So GEC does that, right? They have Northfield, Tidioute, Great Eastern Cutlery, and Farm & Field. Then also there will be just basically producers, so people who own a brand and have knives produced or manufactured under that brand by whatever manufacturer. And that's very common in modern knives also. So some of the brands that Cooper Cutlery ended up owning were like that. So for example, this Weed & Co. was actually a hardware store, was the Weed & Co. hardware store. And then Big Chief was actually a trademark of Queen. And then they also have this Battle Axe brand, which there's some more info in here. So some of these come with information and some of them don't. But for example, this talks about the Battle Axe brand, which is an old brand, right? And then it was revived. So that's how these brands are, right? There's usually, they were made in the late 1800s to early 1900s and then kind of died out, and then were made again. There was kind of a revival of traditional knives, and now the Coopers, or Gilbert Cooper and Cooper Cutlery, are kind of reviving them again. So a couple different brands represented. Now the first one that they really came out with was this Weed & Co. So I'll show you this here. This is the tube that these Weed & Co. knives come in. And like I said, it actually was a hardware store. So it's not just like straight up a marijuana leaf. They did go with a marijuana leaf. And in the tube here, they put a little baggie. So they definitely doubled down on the marijuana thing. Some people, when these first came out, were saying that it wasn't a marijuana leaf. But Seth Cooper confirmed that it is. And so, you know, is it something that I think was a great choice to do that? Not really, but it definitely is a marijuana leaf, and it is different than the original Weed & Co. brand. So when the Weed & Co. knives originally were made, it had nothing to do with marijuana. It was a hardware store, basically, and they just had knives made. But they went with the marijuana thing. So that was the first thing that was kind of a, you know, I didn't really understand that as a choice. I'm not, you know, like, if people want to use marijuana, that's fine. I think you should be able to do what you want to do as long as you're not harming anyone else. But I don't know that it's a motif that is particularly popular among traditional knife enthusiasts. So to see this, you know, clearly a marijuana leaf, was kind of a shock, and then the baggie kind of confirmed it for me. And there was actually a Bible verse that talked about weed or whatever. You know, obviously it wasn't actually referring to weed in the Bible, but I might have lost that or something. But anyway, I bought this green bone version of this Hunter from Traditional Pocket Knives, and you know, it's an all right knife. I wasn't really too disappointed with this. There's some gaps between the bone and the bolsters. Hopefully you can see that gap there, gap there. The back spring's not too bad. Some gapping there, some gapping there. And then, you know, the blade has this match strike pull. I don't think that it's the best looking match strike pull that I've ever seen, but it is a stainless steel blade. I don't mind stainless steel, but it just has this really polished look that I think I don't prefer. It's kind of like that case look where everything is so polished that it's rounded, and I don't prefer that on case, and I don't prefer it anywhere, basically. But, you know, I don't think that this shield is pinned. It might be, but I don't see a pin in there. The finish inside the handle or inside the liners is not great. So it's not a terrible knife. I mean, it has fine action. So I'll show you the action. The action on this, you know, comparable to the GEC 97, which is the same type pattern, a Coke Bottle Hunter. It doesn't have blade play, and it doesn't seem to have blade wrap. And this one came with a reasonable sharpening job. Not incredible. You can see the tip here. It actually kind of hangs down. So that's not ideal, but it actually is sharpened, which unfortunately on some of these later ones, they weren't. Yeah, so this is one of those ones where, you know, with the green bone, I thought it was kind of cool. Not, you know, kind of a novelty, basically, I would say. And I understood that this was their kind of first foray into actually selling knives that they've made. And during this process, I talked to Austin of Traditional Pocket Knives / C. Reisner Cutlery, because I know that, you know, he also was at the auction of the Queen stuff and had been in contact with Cooper Cutlery since they purchased it. And so he was actually a dealer, and then I purchased this knife from him also. This is the, again, Battle Axe brand. So you can see that. I already showed the kind of write-up on it, but it's an old brand also. And this is also a Coke Bottle Hunter. Now, one thing I actually really do like about this knife is this etch. So it has this kind of scrolled etch. It's not like most etches where it's just like lightly done. This, you know, you can hear my fingernail scratching on that. That's etched well down in there. So it's like a true, you know, heavy etch, and then it's kind of gilded in there. And then you can see it says the Conqueror. So I actually really like the look of this one, to be completely honest with you. I like the axe shield. Now, some people have compared this to the Rough Rider knives with axe shields, but, you know, it's a relatively common shield, I would say. It's not like Rough Rider's the only people that used it. It has stag handles, which I think these are pretty nice stag. You know, it's not the world's absolute best stag, but it's pretty nice. Now, again, there are some gaps between the bolsters and the covers, but overall, you know, it's a nice knife. Good action, pretty well centered, actually. Still, the blade is, you know, really polished. The edge is a little better, I would say. No blade play. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. No blade wrap that I can feel. So overall, a pretty nice knife. I was actually pretty happy with this one. If I recall correctly, it was about $120, something like that. I might be misremembering, but I do believe that Austin at C. Reisner Cutlery picked this one out as one of the betters. And, you know, I don't want to say too much about what he has told me, but I don't think that he was necessarily super impressed with this batch of knives. So I think that he did have to pick through them to get ones that he thought people would be okay with, and I hope he won't be upset with me for saying that, but that's the feeling that I got anyway. So while I do like this one, you can see this was made in 2021, Winchester, Ohio. While I do like this knife, you know, it's not perfect, but I think that this is one of the better examples probably of their knives. Now, it was, I think, about at this point, somewhere in here, that I got in contact with Seth Cooper. And first of all, I want to say that he was extremely nice, was very interested in my thoughts on these knives, and was willing to send some knives for evaluation. So I really appreciate that. I do think that they are, at least Seth is looking for feedback, is looking for input. And I gave him some, and, you know, after receiving this first knife, and ended up getting another of it. But so this next knife that I got was the Big Chief. First of all, I really like the Big Chief by Queen. So this is an original Queen Big Chief. Awesome knife, integral aluminum handle. Very, very cool, practical knife. I got this one at the GEC Rendezvous for like $45. I was really happy with it. But before these came out, actually, Smoky Mountain Knife Works, or whatever, Blue Ridge Cutlery, came out with a Queen version of the Big Chief. So they actually own the Queen and Queen City brands, Blue Ridge Cutlery or Smoky Mountain Cutlery or whatever. And so they came out with this, and apparently that was just a mix-up about who owned it. So, you know, I don't know how that went. I'm sure that if Cooper Cutlery owns the Big Chief brand, they weren't happy about this. But this is a Chinese-made Big Chief. It's actually a pretty nice knife and pretty inexpensive. So I was happy to get that one too, actually. But I really like the Big Chief, and I got this. And first of all, at the time, I didn't realize, but this is actually one of the blade shapes that Queen originally made. But this blade shape was, I'll say, perplexing. So it has like a straight edge here, and then a curve, and then another curve, and then a flat. So it has almost like an S curve. It's not like a hawkbill, so it doesn't continue toward, like, downward towards the tip. It's straight, curves down, and then kind of curves back up. The other thing here, and you might be able to hear this, is that this is the waviest feeling edge I have ever felt on a knife. You know how case sometimes when you get them, the edge feels like toothy? This isn't toothy, this is wavy. It's almost serrated. And you can, I can see it in person. I hope you can see it on video here, but you can actually see that on the back of this blade. I don't know how they ground this edge, but it didn't go well. The other thing about this is the centering. There is no centering, basically. So it actually sits on the liner. Like if I lift this, that edge is grinding on the liner. Or, well, there's no liner, but it is grinding on the handle. And, you know, the blade is just excessively bent. So you can see that there. It's just bent hard to the side. So it's hitting the handle. Now the action is fine. There's no blade play. But again, at the time I didn't realize that the Queen actually had made a blade shape similar to this. It was like more of like a sheepfoot hawkbill type thing, but this is not that blade shape. So I told Seth, I was like, hey, this knife shouldn't have gone out like this. The edge is terrible, the edge shape is terrible, and it hits the handle. So he actually sent me another one, and this one is better. So first of all, the centering is good, is much better. Unfortunately, for having this type of blade shape, it's actually pretty close to proud. Now, you're not going to catch your finger on it because of this, you know, blade shape, but it's pretty close to proud. This is closer to what the original Queen blade shape was. So it is more of like a hawkbill, a continuous curve, and the edge is also better on this. So I think that this is a much, much better knife, and you can see that this is 2022. So, you know, hopefully there was improvement happening. I do like that these are cast. This is a, you know, a one-piece handle like the original versus the overseas made version. So I do like that. And again, this is much better. You know, no blade play, nice and solid, good action, you know, generally a good knife. And these weren't selling for super expensive. These were $40 or $50, I believe, you know, so made in the USA, a traditional pattern, maybe not my favorite blade shape, but it is a blade shape that was used in the Big Chief, and, you know, not super expensive either. So if I got this Big Chief first, I would be happy with it. If I paid $40 or $50 for this, certainly I would be happy. A good comparison, if I can find it, is this Old Hickory. So this new slip joint from Old Hickory, this is about $40. And I would say that the Big Chief, the second Big Chief, is a better finished knife than the Old Hickory. So, you know, it's unfortunate. If I had gotten that for $40, the first Big Chief, I would have been very unhappy. Definitely sent it back. If I had gotten the second one, it'd be much better. So I was hopeful when I got this second one. And then Seth actually sent some more knives. So first of all, very generous, I think interested in feedback. So I have to say that positively. And he sent these 3 knives. So these are all on the Weed & Co. brand. Now, this first one is a connoisseur, so, you know, fancier basically. And this has, what do they call this bone? I'm forgetting what they call this bone. It is, oh, so here's the Bible verse, the Weed Bible verse. So it has not really anything to do with weed, but anyway, I think that this will say what the handles are. So this is Paw Blue Jigged Bone? No. Which one is this? I don't know. It's one of those. Must be Paw Blue Jigged Bone. Spear Shield. Yeah, that's what that is. Paw Blue Jigged Bone. So I think that there's a fruit called a pawpaw. It's actually a Pennsylvania fruit too, but I've never seen one in person or had one. But the bone is actually kind of cool. It's very weird. It's like whitish here, blue, dark blue, grayish, and then mostly grayish on the back, a little bit of green. So a very strange bone color. Now, as for the fit, it is actually much better on this. So, you know, I want to be fair here. Like I say, I always want to be fair. And you can see that the back springs are better fit. So there's a little bit of gap there, but much less. And they certainly are just finished better here. Both blades are reasonably centered. And, you know, it says connoisseur on the blade. Not what I would have chosen. But then we get to the edge, and this knife is just not sharpened to an apex. You know, I would never do that with a knife that was sharpened, right? It's just not sharpened. There we go. Sorry about that. So, knife thoughts here. It literally will not cut. So, sorry for the little interruption there, but like I was saying, this just does not cut. There's not a real usable edge on this blade, and it's not much better on this blade. So, you know, it just like won't cut. I mean, would it maybe like cut a little bit of wood? You know, maybe. But it's not the way a knife should come. Now, interestingly, if you look at this, this knife says 2021. So this blade was made before this Big Chief was made. So, you know, maybe they've improved, maybe they were using older blades and they just weren't, you know, sharpened well. Now, this knife, so this is another connoisseur, and this one is in the maple bone, is what I think that said there. Let's take a look at that again. So this one is in Ohio chestnut with spear shield. Oh wait, no, that's not that. I don't know. Look at that. You can figure out which one this is. Anyway, same deal here. So this one actually doesn't say connoisseur on it, but same deal. Not really an edge. I'll show you that. Oh, there we go. So, you know, maybe it'll cut once. But as you can see, these knives basically came with unusable edges. Now, you know, is that because they're connoisseur knives and are seen as not something you'll carry? I don't know. But it's definitely not the way they should come. It's one of those things where it's really disappointing because these knives are so much better fit, you know, made with so much better fit and finish. So, you know, the wood, pretty good looking. The bone, pretty good looking. The fit between the wood and the bolsters and the bone and the bolsters, much better than the other knives. Fits pretty well. No cracks, nothing like that. The centering, pretty good. The action, good. You know, same with this other one here. Nice action. No blade play. Snaps nicely. This one's a little lighter, but still nice. And like I said, you know, good fit on the springs. So it's really disappointing that they went out without an edge, because it's like a knife is made to cut, and if it won't cut, it's not really a knife. So that was really disappointing to me. Now this one, I think this is the best of the bunch. So first of all, this has pretty nice looking red bone. It does have the weed shield, which I would not prefer, but no big deal there. But it has pretty nice red bone. Jigging is, you know, big jigging, but nice. It is a razor, so you can, you know, open it one-handed by catching that on a pocket. The back spring, pretty well fit. Now this one is, I mean, this one might have been an EDC, but anyway. And the grind is much better on this one. So this has a hollow grind, and I'll try to show you maybe that it is actually a good bit thinner. Now this didn't come with a great edge, but it came with a usable edge. And this one is 2022. So, you know, it came with a usable edge. You might see there's some scuffing and stuff. That's because I actually tried to thin the edge out. It was pretty thick although usable. So I tried to thin it out with a Dremel, which was a bad call. Not real sure why I did that, but anyway, I think this is the best of the bunch, and I think that this is the second best of the bunch. So while there's some serious issues, and it did give me enough pause that I took a long time to actually make this video, I think that there's hope. And so that's because this 2022 and this 2022 are the best of the bunch. You know, certainly better than these two, the 2021s. I think even better than these two, the 2020s or 2021s, and better than this other Big Chief. So it seems like the newest of them are better. And I haven't gotten a Cooper Cutlery made knife recently for a while. Like I said, I've had these for a while and just have been kind of sitting on them. But I have, you know, followed along. They have a Facebook and I believe an Instagram, and they post, you know, infrequently, but they post some pictures and stuff. And it looks like they have finally some Schatt and Morgan knives coming. So, you know, when I heard that they had purchased the brands from Queen Cutlery, or at least some of the brands and the machinery, I think mine and pretty much everybody else's thought was they're going to make Schatt and Morgan. Schatt and Morgan was the premium brand of Queen Cutlery. And so it was very perplexing to see them make this Weed & Co., the Battle Axe, and all of that. That's not the more well-known brands. So I'm excited to see that they are making Schatt and Morgan knives, that Schatt and Morgan knives are coming from Cooper Cutlery, and I'm really hoping that they are well made. I do have hope because these newer knives are the best of the bunch. And, you know, am I going to pick one up? Yes. Now, do I necessarily recommend any of the previous knives that they have made? Honestly, no. But I think that it's worth, you know, giving them some hope, giving them some time, and hopefully they will, you know, bring things up to where they should be and to where they can compete. Because with, you know, this quality, I don't think that they are in a good place in the market. These knives are not of a significantly better quality than Case. They are certainly not of the same quality of GEC. The prices are, you know, around Case, maybe a little higher. And so I think that they have to figure out where they're competing. And it's going to be hard to compete against Case because Case is massive, right? So I think that the place to be is competing with GEC, you know, getting those true dedicated collectors like, you know, the brands like Titusville Cutlery and Napanock Cutlery, whatever all the new Daniels family brands are, and compete at that higher level. I think the Napanock and, you know, whatever the Daniels family brands are a little high on their price, actually. I haven't bought one because they're so high priced, but I think that the way to shoot for Cooper is to be in that premium you know, space in the market where, you know, true collectors, enthusiasts are buying knives rather than competing with Case. And I'm hopeful. When they come out with Schatt and Morgan knives, I will probably buy one with the hope that it is nicer than these, and it really, you know, stands up to the name Schatt and Morgan, which has a really long and storied history of a lot of great knives. So again, I want to thank Cooper Cutlery, Seth Cooper specifically, but Cooper Cutlery, for sending a lot of these knives. Check them out, you know, give them a look, see what you think, and we'll see what happens. So if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I'd love to hear your comments on Cooper Cutlery below. Check out my other social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Knife Thoughts, and my website, knifethoughts.com. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.